Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm the Campaign Marketing Manager here at eLearning Brothers. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 ways to drive learner engagement using gamification and dynamic content. This session will be recorded. We'll get a copy of it sent out to everybody who registered, so you'll be able to view this after the fact at your leisure if you have to step out a little early or if you just want to view it again later. You can also feel free to share that around with those who may benefit from this content. So be looking for that email later today. If you have questions or comments during the webinar, we'll be ready to answer your questions using the questions panel that's part of the GoToWebinar interface. We'll get to as many of those questions as we can. Feel free to send in any of your responses and we'll answer those either in text or I'll bring them up in front of our presenter. If you have not already, please feel free to check out our community, the Rockstars community. You can check that out at rockstars.elearningbrothers.com. There's lots of conversations there about Lectora, the Rockstar Learning Platform, Scenario VR, but we also have sections about other tools as well, like Articulate Storyline, Captivate, iSpring, or just e-learning in general. It's a great place to go and have conversations. So again, that's rockstars.elearningbrothers.com, and we'll post a link to that in the chat so you can visit there. All right, well, we have a fantastic guest with us today. We've got Domenic Caloia, founder of the Center for Learner Intelligence. And he has years of experience in the corporate training environment and migrated to and now specializes in adaptive learning experiences. So we're very excited for what we have to share. Without further ado, I'll pass the screen and the time over to you, Domenic.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Andrew, and the whole eLearning Brothers team for having me here. Today is going to be, for me, a lot of fun. I'm going to show you how to do not one, but several different aspects. As a matter of fact, while I'm giving this brief intro, Andrew, if you want to launch the poll, and I want to tell people that today's presentation for me is going to be a little bit differently. Normally, I dive into some really deep material and show you how to do amazing things that gets quite involved. But today, we're going to flip it around a little bit. I'm going to show you how to do things, but it's embarrassingly simple. As a matter of fact, many of you are probably already using this technique. But what's interesting is I'm going to apply a very simple technique in a different out-of-the-box way. And what I'm going to be covering is several different ways to engage audiences, which is especially important now when a lot of us are working remote and many people are not used to this distance type of learning and this distance type of working and interacting with each other. So I'm trying to bring in another element of social interactivity into our normal web-based training. I'm going to start off with a simple example with showing some gamification, but with a twist. We're going to embed some dynamic web content. Then I'm going to show you how to step it up with an interactive chat in your LMS web-based courses. And then we're going to go one step further and do a video chat. And then we're going to embed discussions. And in the process, I'm going to be explaining how bringing in different social media tools can really engage your audiences and actually promote learning. Andrew, do we have the results of that survey?
Yep, so the first question, I'll put the answers up on the screen. What is your level of experience with training development? We have 54% of our audience said that they are confident, 29% said that they are experts, and only 17% are new or recent to training development.
Okay, that's great.
Any of the other questions?
Expert, the technique is simple. You've used this already. Okay, but the out-of-the-box type of thinking might be something new. And in the chat, as we go through, it's kind of interesting to get your feedback. I'd like to know, even though the technique is simple, have you used this in this exact way? And if not, do you see the potential of doing this? So I'm going to start off now by showing the first example. And pardon me if I look to the side as I bring things up on the other screen. I'm going to show you now simple gamification, which is different from gaming. With gaming, the whole focus is on the entertainment, it's on the fun, it's on the challenge. But with gamification, we use some of those principles to enhance the learning process. And what you're seeing right now, I've built in both storyline and lectura. So you have some instructions on the homepage, and we're going to click play to go to the next screen. And here, I'm having fun. This could be a splash screen. It could be just some fun entertainment. It's optional, but today I'm having a lot of fun. It's totally different from my paying job where I got to do very corporate stuff. The instructions for the game say you start here and you are allowed to click on any adjacent tile. So I can't click anywhere near the green target. And my goal is to click adjacent tiles and find a path that gets me to the target. That's the object of the game. If you notice at the bottom of the graphic, your score is 100, my score, I'm playing the game. My score is 100 and the top score is 100. So I'm starting off with a perfect score. However, every time I click, I'm gonna click on a tile right now, it's red, it was a wrong click. But every time I click, I lose 10 points. When I hit the green square and finish the game, I get a whole bunch of bonus points. So that's the goal, is to hit that green square, get those bonus points before my score drops too low. Now that was an incorrect choice. I'll try another one. This one is the correct choice. But now the purpose of gamification is to promote learning. In this case, the learning I want the user to experience is going to my blog site and learning about the learner intelligence adaptive design model. How am I going to encourage people to do that? I could just say, here's the link, go to the website, study, learn, there's going to be, and then I'll answer some questions. But this gamification is an attempt to make it a little more engaging and a little more fun. So by clicking on a correct square, which is going to advance me to my target, I'm asked a question, and I've made this very, very simple. It tells me where to go on the website to get the answer. And I click on the correct answer, I check it, I get a message that says correct, I click OK, and now the golden path begins to develop as I move towards my goal. I'm thinking to myself, well, let me try this center tile. I click on it, and every time I click, I'm losing points. So I did 1, 2, 3 clicks, I'm down to 70 points. I'm going to try another tile. I can't click here. It's not adjacent to where I am right now. I click, I get another question. It directs me where to go on the blog site. As you can see, in the act of playing the game, I'm directing people to learning and getting and achieving my learning objective. If I click on the wrong answer, I'll be asked to try again. And when I click on the correct answer, as you can see, I'm advancing. I click on the next tile and try again. Try again. Okay. 2 special features. Navigation adapts to the learner. Course remembers the selection. Correct. Okay. So now I've gotten to the point where I could click on the finish. I get a nice animated reward. My score is 80 out of a possible 100. So even though I was losing points, I got a bunch of bonus points when I achieved the end. How did I do this? I created the interaction, which if you're an advanced user, you probably have no questions about it. But it's simple, click and reveal. And in storyline, I click and I change the state, whether it be to a red or whether it be to a yellow. I change the state of the tiles. And with lectura, I'm doing, click and reveals. Any questions at this point? The important aspect here.
No questions here, we're good.
Okay. The important thing I want to illustrate here is that I've embedded dynamic content, which in this case was my blog page. It could be a corporate website. It could be a Google search where you predefine the search and you want learners to browse certain pages and collect some information and advance learning in that fashion. So we've taken two simple aspects and combined them. I'm going to show you a different example and then dive a little deeper and show you how it was done. In this example, what's missing from your e-learning? Click to find out. The best learning does not happen alone. And now we're getting to the point where we're addressing the concern of people for the first time having to work or learn in a distance format. I'm going to click join the meeting. And what I have here is wow, I did this out of order. This is the video chat. Now I'm in a LMS-based course, published on the LMS. It's asynchronous. My learning content is here on the left. And on the right, I've got fellow learners or fellow coworkers joining me at the same time. Hi, girls. You know, Christy actually works for E-Learning Brothers. She's famous right now. You guys want to say a quick hi to the audience?
Hi, thank you everyone for coming.
It's great to be a part of this.
Now, I'm going to click on the left, continue. So on one side of my course, I have learning content, and it could be any content like you typically design it. On the right-hand side, I brought in fellow learners or fellow coworkers concurrently in this asynchronous course. How can this be used? In a college situation, the professor can say, take this course. If you have any problems, 7 o'clock tonight, I am going to be in the course to answer your questions. So whatever part of the learning content I'm in, the other attendees can be asking questions. Another way it can be used is coworkers or students can team up and say, hey, why don't we take the course together? Why? Because of social learning theory, where people learn better in groups. And also, it enables users to help teach other people that might have a difficulty with a concept. Now, all the burden of teaching is not on the instructor. So I'm wondering how active the chat is right now for people that are thinking of the possibilities that may apply to them. And as I go through these examples, even though it's simple to embed something, there are some tricks involved. If you notice, I am using this program called Jitsi Meet. Why am I not using Zoom or GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar? A lot of services do not allow their service to be embedded or framed. And if you can't frame it, you can't include it in your course. Jitsi is a free service and allows me to do amazing things. I'm going to click to continue and take a look at more content. Check this out. If I need more real estate, I want to show an interaction, I want to show this big picture, this diagram, and I don't want to lose 50% of my screen. I toggle the video, I can move it out of the side. Now I have the entire real estate area in which to work for, which means you could have a course where only periodically you say, okay, discuss it with your team. When I'm given that option, the team comes on board. I go through several pages of traditional learning, discuss it with your team, I click on the button, and the team comes back on. Any questions or comments at this point?
There's a question about, do learners need to download anything to use Jitsi and this feature?
No, there's nothing to download. Registration with an email is optional. You could just sign in as a guest Why? Because I decided to set it up as a public open video chat. If I wanted to password protect it, I believe that is an option if I wanted to make it secure. Now, if the course is on an LMS, only people that have access to the LMS are going to be able to access it, and they can access and actually sign up and join right from within the program without having to do so beforehand. As an option, you could have your students or your coworkers register with their email address beforehand, and then when the course begins, they'll already be recognized and they can join right in. But it's totally seamless and it is free. Pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Do you know if any other video softwares will work in there? Could we use Zoom or Teams or something like that? Or have you only tried Jitsi?
Teams will not work. Zoom will not work. GoToWebinar will not. The major companies will not allow it. All right. And that's why I had to do some searching, which brings me to what I said earlier. The technique of embedding, which we'll get to in a moment, is relatively very, very simple. However, finding what to embed is kind of tricky. And something else I want to point out about this, I should have done the chat before I did the video chat. This one's a little more complex. There's something called inheritance, where I could, if you're an experienced Lectora user and Storyline user, you probably know what I'm talking about. Either on the Storyline master slide or on the Lectora, if you put it at the title level or at the chapter level, you could embed something and have it appear on all the pages that follow underneath it. I love that fact. It's like put it in once and view it multiple times on multiple pages. Unfortunately, every time I go to the next page or to the next slide, this video chat is going to launch again. So what I had to do is I had to do a little trickery. Everything you're seeing right here is one page. And whenever I click to continue, I have content changing, sliding in, sliding out, hiding a layer, showing a layer. In Storyline, we use layers. And that's how I simulated the fact of going to pages, but actually everything is on one page, which means if it's a very, very, very long course, you might want to think twice about using this technique, but definitely with a little effort, you can build a lot of content onto one page or one slide using layers in Storyline or using this hide and reveal in Lectora. Any questions before we go on to the next example?
No, just lots of questions about Jitsi. I'd suggest you guys Google Jitsi and see what they've got out there.
At the end of the presentation, you're going to see all the links to all the software that I'm showing. You can take a screenshot of it and have all the URLs. And that's one of the big benefits that I'm offering today is a lot of trial and error went into finding compatible programs. And let's go to another example here. That's the last example. And let me pull up. Actually, let me show you some information here. And let's go to let's talk about how this was done. Reading view. In the first example with the game, this was very simple. I embedded a URL. I embedded a web page. I'm getting a little feedback, so I don't know if my video chat people want to sign off of the video chat. We're done with that. In Lectora, I click on web window and I put in the URL. I could click on preview and see what the page is going to look like. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know who's talking there. Okay, in Lectora, I click on insert web window, I put in the URL, and it's done. The web page is embedded and inserted into my course. In Storyline, it's very similar. I click on insert a web object, I put the URL in, I click OK, and it is embedded. Where do you embed it? It depends. It depends on if what you're embedding, like the video chat, refreshed on every single page or on every single slide. So I couldn't have it inherited on the master view or at the title level. I had to actually put it on one page and change my content. Option number 2, okay? In Lectora, I could click on HTML extension, and I get a window where I could type in or copy and paste iframe code. Iframe is simple HTML code, which says in this area, in this frame, include this content. And the Jitsi and some of the other programs I'm showing you actually lets you create the iframe embed code to put in. So basically, I go to my Jitsi site, I copy the embed code, I paste it in here, and it is done. With Storyline, it's a little bit different. I have to first create a folder. Then I have to create an HTML page. It's not as scary as that may sound if you're new to this. And I've got the code right here. You have your HTML head and body tags opening, and at the bottom, the closing tags. And in the middle would be the same iframe code, the same embed code that you got from your service like Jitsi Me. And then you save this web page. So create a folder, create the HTML page, put your embed code in the page, save that page inside that folder, and then you're ready to do the exact same thing that's done in Lectora. You click on Insert Web Object, which I'm showing right up here in the corner, and then you click the folder to browse, and you select the folder that you saved. That folder contains your web page, contains the iframe code, and you're done. So it's just a few extra steps in Storyline to get to the same end result. Any questions from people that are watching?
There's a couple questions about accessibility, but that's not necessarily the focus of our webinar today. But if you want to talk about how some of these may or may not fit accessibility standards, that'd be cool.
Okay, so if you remember my previous example, we had content on the left and we had the video on the right. The content on the left, you would develop to whatever standards you normally develop with. The option to the right now, you're inviting people to do a video chat. How accessible is that going to be to your audience? That I don't know. You might want to have an option for those that are maybe visually impaired. Even with a video chat, people can hear what's going on, although they may not see the people. If they can't hear, then people will be able to see who's on the video chat, but they won't be able to hear. So there's another alternative. There's also the possibility of doing a text-based chat. And is it possible to build a course where you can say, choose the video chat or choose the text-based chat? Yes. Okay. However, there's probably going to be different students or different co-workers in either of those. Probably someone could. I've got Christy and Donna. They've logged both into the video chat and the text-based chat, both simultaneously. And so that's going to be up to you guys to decide how you integrate this into a 508 compliance course. Any other questions?
No, we can move on ahead.
Okay, let's move to another example here. So we did that one, we did that one. Okay, Christy, you're no longer needed in the video chat. You can sign off on that. And before I show that one, there's another one I wanted to show. And that's this one right here. This one right here. Okay, here we go. This is another course that I had fun with. Now here we have a text-based chat instead of the video chat. And we've got Christy on. I like this example she just said. DT, Donna's on. Okay, ready to have some fun. Okay, great guys. And I could chat right back here. Again, there's no registration required. It's a free service, and this is Minute Chat. You'll get the link to this at the end. So if I need help on demand, I can ask you, yes. So here's an example where as I progress from page to page, now I had fun doing this. And notice that as I went to the next page, I still see exactly where the chat was left off. This embedded object is inheritable. So I insert it once at the top of a title or on top of a chapter in Lectura. I insert it once on the master view layer of Storyline, and then I build all my content pages as normal, just keeping in mind that you want to not put content where the chat's going to be unless you put this hide and reveal. If the chat is on a layer, I could hide or show the layer to expose more learning content space. In Lectura, I could do a hide and reveal on the HTML object. When I go to the next page, I just built this to see the nice scenery. I can show my content. I could show my chat. So this is another way of engaging your learners, fostering a learning community, and have your learners help each other learn the content that you're putting out. So if there's any questions, so in a 508 compliance situation, if someone types in a message like, I really didn't get that, can someone explain it to me? Another student on at the same time is like, well, think of it this way. It's like a bunch of flies hovering over a pot of honey. Now, why I came up with that saying, I have no idea, but you get what I mean. The interactivity between the students can foster learning. And this is going from page to page. And what I can do is at different points of the learning content, I can ask my learners or my coworkers, I can ask them questions. I can challenge them in the content. And the challenge can be, discuss this. Same thing on the video chat or on the text-based chat. Discuss that with others on your team. And what do you think is the most important feature of this product? What do you think should be the next step? Can anyone think of any ways that this can be utilized in an environment with children or with an environment with adults, et cetera, et cetera? Ask thought-provoking questions to take the static content and kick it up to another level of learning and integrating with prior knowledge. And what's really good here is that if your learning audience is mixed, you have some millennials, you have some baby boomers, and there's all different age ranges. If you're teaching a global audience and there's different cultural backgrounds, different levels of experience, the learning field can be leveled a little bit by having people converse with each other and help each other out and make things clearer. So if I publish a course in the United States and someone's taking the course in Germany or in Asia, and they're viewing things a little bit differently, and a question pops up, other learners at the same time can clarify that point. Any comments on this? So congratulations, we've reached the end. And as you can see, I sort of had a lot of fun with this, with the space type graphics. I don't have this much fun developing course content on a daily basis. But something interesting to point out, the size of this course is 1300 by 730. If you're going to be embedding content like I'm showing you, you're probably going to want to use a large screen size to get more real estate. I want to make sure the dimensions were large enough where I had enough room for content on one side and then the embedded interactivity and engagement on the other. Any questions or comments on this one?
Nope, we're good.
Excellent. So that is that example. And let's take a look at another one. Again, the technique, the technical aspect of embedding it in the course is very simple, but what to embed and where to embed it. Should I embed it so it's inherited on all pages, or should I embed it on every single page? That depends upon what you're embedding. In this example, I'm showing a discussion. So now there's no one live on this, but you can see that John and myself have posted comments to this. This, I think, is very valuable for my company, where I'm training a global audience of salespeople or a global audience of technicians. It'd be great. It's great when I publish a course. So as of day one, the course is published, there's a certain amount of content in there. But wouldn't it be great for salespeople or technicians to share best experiences, to share what problems they've had and how they've overcome it? There's no way at day one of publication, I'm going to have weeks, months of field experience to share with my users unless that amount of time went by and then I updated the course. So here, my course literally can be dynamic. It can be updated on a continuous basis if my employees, if my learners are contributing content here in the discussion group. And as I go to the next page, okay, anyone can join a public discussion. Private discussion boards can be created. So when you create the discussion board, it can be public or private. Again, if they're only encountering this inside an LMS-based course, you know that all your attendees to the chat are going to be employees or fellow learners. And someone asked me, what am I using? And they asked me questions on this particular service, which the link is at the end. There are a lot of discussion boards where you can do this with. It's a lot easier to find compatible discussion boards that can be embedded than it was for the video chat. Now here we have an example of a survey. This is a very simple survey monkey. So I'm going to answer one, I'm going to answer two questions, but my I haven't gotten up to the learning content where I could answer the third question on this questionnaire. So I'm going to click the next page. And oh, you see what happens? My answers were wiped out. Here's a perfect example of a service, SurveyMonkey in this case, which I can embed, but every time I go to another page or another slide in Storyline, the service refreshes and I'm right back to the beginning. Not exactly what I would prefer in a learning environment. If I wanted to have on one page the whole entire survey completed, like at the end of the course, that would be fine. And then, of course, if you're using a service like SurveyMonkey, outside of the LMS, at any time, the instructor can access the survey and get current stats, metrics, possibly to share with key stakeholders. So, for example, I'm teaching this global audience, and 2 months after the course is published, my manager is asking me, what do people think of the course? What kind of comments are we getting? And one way of doing this is by embedding a survey at the end of the course. And I go to my SurveyMonkey link, I get stats, I get metrics, I can share with my manager the rating on this Likert scale on the feedback from the learners. Any questions at this point as we continue?
So a couple questions about the software. We may have missed that. What is the name of the chat feature in this this conversation feature?
The chat feature is Minute Chat, MINNIT. You'll see the link at the end. And this one I'm showing you now is SurveyMonkey, but it gets better. If I click next, this is what I call much, much better. This is AllCounted. Now notice what happens here. Can surveys embedded in learning improve learning and user engagement? Well, I definitely believe so. So I've got a question here. AllCounted is 100% free, full featured. As you're going to see in a moment, there's a lot of features I could use with this survey. And it does provide the embed code. The iframe code that I showed you earlier, you don't have to type it out. You don't have to create it. AllCounted will let you click a button, get the embed code, copy and paste it into Lectora or Storyline. Now, I've answered this first question. I'm going to click next. How easy is this for you to implement in your training courses? From extremely easy to extremely difficult? Well, I haven't decided yet. Let's continue with the learning content. I'm going to go to the next page. And look at this. I'm exactly where I left off. Unlike SurveyMonkey, it doesn't refresh and start from the beginning. This is made to be embedded, and I'm still on my second question in the survey. And on the left, I've got a screen capture of the AllCounted service. And I'm looking at, you could put in a star rating question. You could put in a drag and drop. Wow. I mean, a lot of you guys, I've been told from the survey, are experienced or advanced users. So you're probably thinking, Dom, I do drag and drop all the time. But for some of the beginners that haven't figured out how to do drag and drop, wow, to have a drag and drop question in a survey, that could very well integrate very nicely with your learning content. And then there's the Net Promoter Score, which a lot of businesses use. You have a lot of options as to what types of questions can be put in here. So now that I've learned a little bit more, I'm going to say, wow, this is extremely easy. And then I'm going to click next. I'm going to go to the next page. I think there's a next page, or maybe not. I guess let me go back. And you saw that the last question was a star ranking. And all right, folks, this page, oh, okay. So let's go back again. This is the page. So, oh, look at this, all this moving around, and the service did not refresh. I'm 50% done. I click my rating, I click next, any comments, I click finish. And now my responses are now uploaded to AllCounted, and the administrator can log into AllCounted and collect all the metrics that's been collected by the survey. Now, this has got to be stimulating some ideas for some of our users. Andrew, any comments or questions?
Yes, so there's a couple questions about how this iframed data can get into an LMS or onto SharePoint. Do you have any experience that way?
Okay, what we're doing is we're embedding a service. In this case, I was just talking about AllCounted. So AllCounted is a self-contained system that lets you create the surveys, that lets users interact with the survey, and the survey results are posted in AllCounted. So it's kind of interesting that I'm launching a course in the LMS and information is being populated into the AllCounted survey. Now, a couple of points. A traditional LMS typically collects very, very little information. Username, user ID, pass-fail, passing score, very, very, very limited. And in previous training courses and webinars that I've done, I've shown you how to use Google Docs and actually collect metrics and post it on Google Docs. Here, very simply, the metrics that I collect and the responses that I'm getting would be accessible through the AllCounted. And what's good about that is I can collect a lot more information than my LMS can contain and share. And I can take all this extra information, extra key performance indicators, and share that with my stakeholders very, very simply. Now, if you're an advanced user and you're using a learning record store, then you say, well, I got X API statements that could do the exact same thing. Yeah, sure, do it. Okay, this is a simple alternative to get some pretty amazing results. And we're talking about engaging a remote workforce or engaging remote learners and collecting information above and beyond what a traditional LMS can do. Any other questions?
Yes. Do you have any advice on how to convince people who are reluctant to this approach?
It depends upon what the reluctance is. A couple of options. One reluctance might be we've got a lot of security issues in our company, and we have our own chat service like Yammer or SharePoint and stuff like that, and we don't want to use anything else. That's going to be a tough one. One thing that I would do to convince my manager is show a demo like this. I'm going to be uploading all these files in Storyline and Lectora. You could download it, put your own content in, redesign the learning content. You can create your own video chat or your own text-based chat. Don't use mine, use your own, and actually do a demo to your managers. And find out exactly what is the reluctance and test it out. Is the reluctance based on, well, our users will never go for it? I got to tell you, when I told my manager that we can collect best practices from salespeople and technicians around the world, she flipped. She thought that was great. And the fact that the course would be dynamic and continuously improving without a burden on the learning department. There's a efficiency benefit, there's a cost savings benefit, there's a learning benefit. There's so many benefits to incorporating something like this. I would suggest work up a little demo, seeing is believing, and then finding out what the objections are. Hey, and if you want to brainstorm, contact me. You'll have my contact information at the end. Let's see what the objections are, and maybe we could brainstorm some possible solutions. And if you want to use me as a testimonial, Dom said it works. Dom said it's good. Use me. I'll be glad to help support you. Anything else before we continue?
Yeah, one other question that we'll take at this time before we move forward. So are you saying that essentially we're just using the embed function to have the user take the survey and other data inside the content window? Is there a benefit to having that embedded as opposed to just having a quick link out to maybe another tab that does this?
From a learning experience, I personally prefer to have it embedded, but sure, you could have someone click on a link and an external window pops up. That's very easy to do. It's a link to another URL, and then you could use SurveyMonkey and things like that. Some of the examples I showed you, we were hiding and revealing. It just opens up a lot of interactivity that previously you may not have thought of doing. Having a survey at the end of the course built in, fine. Having a survey at the end of the course linking out, that's fine. But to have a course proceed, and then you have this window slide in, answer question 1. Learning content continues, then you have it appear again. Answer question 2. Now it's extremely interactive, and they're only focusing on one learning criteria, one learning aspect at a time. I learned something, I give feedback. I learned something, I give feedback. I learned something, I give feedback in real time, as opposed to I learn, and then at the end of the course, I got to remember what I learned and give feedback. All right, so it depends upon the kind of result you want to achieve. They're both good. So with that, let's take a look and see what else I have here. Now here I've got two different services showing you that discussion forums is a little bit different from the chat. With the chat, Donna and Christy and myself, we're chatting with each other. That's real time. With a forum, this is kind of good if you want to have a built-in support or built-in best practices, because now I could click on general discussion here. Now this might be a whole list of best practices. This one here might be problems installing the XYZ product. I click here, and now I'm seeing how other technicians have resolved installation problems. However, both of these services, now, which service are these? Boardhost.com is on the left. Talkforum.com is on the right. And they both work the same. You try them out. They both have free versions. See which ones you like. And I personally like the physical appearance of this broad host on the left. But you can compare and see which of these services have better features, but they work in a very similar fashion. Unfortunately, when we go to the next page, you'll see that these examples do not work across pages. I can't have it inherited down throughout all the slides or all the pages in my course. So when I want to show it, I can show it at any point in my course. So for example, I could have several pages of learning, several slides of learning, and then say, see what other salespeople are doing, or see what the best practices are, see what is really happening out in the field. And what I like about this is we live in a changing world. And if you're a big global company and you put out training, how effective is the training? Whether it be sales training or technical training, what's happening in the field? How long will it take your company to find out after the training is put out, what's happening? How many people are successful? What problems are they encountering? Is the training good enough to solve the problems? Is more needed? By having something like this embedded in the course, where people can post their best practices, they could ask questions. How do I do this? They want 3 of them. It's like, I've never installed 3 in the same store location. Now what do I do? Do I have to install them in a certain sequence? Do I need something extra to have 3 at the same time? And another installer says, not a problem. Here's what I did. Your stakeholders can see this instantly. If they're checking this once a week, as things develop in the field, a competitor comes up with a competitive product. When are we going to find this out? 3 months after sales drop? Okay, so having this embedded in the course where users can post what's happening in the field is really an awesome, potentially awesome. And when I click next, I think that's the end of that. Okay, one more. I'm looking at the time, so this is the last example. If you go to, for some of you advanced users or anyone watching, if you go to this URL, bit.ly/domswall, you will see this screen right here. And this screen gives you 2 votes, and I've got 4 things to vote on. You could actually click on these and cast your votes for which one of these items that we just covered you like. This is really entertaining, and this service, which is .storming.com, this service is really amazing. Users can create their own posts like this and ask questions or make comments, and you can collect a lot of user learner feedback from embedding this in your course. Yeah, there's a chat feature built in here. It's very graphically oriented. It does take up a bit of real estate, so you may not want to have this continuously throughout your course, but periodically you may want to have this pop up. And this does not work across pages. So I may want to have a whole series of learning take place, and then collect some feedback. And what's kind of interesting is if I do this multiple times in the course, will my feedback change after 10 minutes of learning versus 20 minutes of learning versus 30 minutes of learning? How are you going to collect these kind of metrics? If I find out that my learners think in the beginning of the course, well, it's okay, and midway through the course they think that's not bad at all, and at the end of the course they think, wow, this is great. Like some of you may be thinking, Dom, when you started the course, I wasn't too much impressed, but you know, later on, there was 1 or 2 examples that I really want to think about using. So having this pop up, even though it can't be on all pages, having this pop up periodically, and think of the interactivity. They could create their own cards. They could click to vote. Now I'm looking and I'm seeing a couple of people voted on the gamification already. I'm going to go to the next page. So this is happening in real time, and I don't know who did that, but can I upload an image? Yeah, this service lets you upload an image. And that's the examples that I wanted to show. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and share those links that I told you about. Let's go to View, Reading View, and advance through the work examples. So let's recap and remember some key points. It's easy to embed external content. I showed you how to do it in both Lectora and in Storyline. The trick is finding content that can be embedded. We discussed that some things like Zoom and GoToWebinar cannot be embedded. Things like the Teams chat, it's a little tricky. It can be embedded, but only for your organization. So I couldn't show that here because I wanted people from outside my organization to jump in. And inheritance, some things can be embedded, can be inherited across pages, and some things can't. Those are the tricks. Those are the things you need to know to successfully replicate in a learning environment that I just showed you. So going on to the next screen, which I know you can't wait to find out, here it is, folks. The chat, video meeting, the surveys, the discussion forums that I use, they're here. The links are all here. You can do a screenshot. It's going to be in the recording. You could find out more about me from learnerintelligence.org. You could connect with me on LinkedIn. You can email me at connect@learnerintelligence.org. And if you want to test drive an adaptive course, which I've shown in other webinars, if you want to build a course that adapts to all different types of learners, regardless of what part of the world they're in, what their level of experience is, what their learning style is, boy, do I have something for you. I'm not talking about a customized learning path, right? But I'm talking about the course itself. On page 5, on slide 6, on 17, I can actually determine how I want to learn. Check out that demo and stand by for an upcoming webinar on adaptive learning. So, actually, the bit.ly session, that's feedback, and the adaptive demo is on the bottom of that list. Anyway, I can see, Andrew, I've talked enough, and you want to wrap things up. And I believe we have a closing survey, right? Or that'll come at the end.
Yes, so there's a survey as you exit. Please do participate in that. We'd love to get your feedback on that front. I'll leave this screen up just for a moment if you want to capture that screenshot. That Domenic always comes with lots of great information. So by all means, grab that screenshot before I change it in like 3 seconds. And there's your chance. All right, I'm going to change the screen over to this one more time. So a lot of what Domenic is talking about, in fact, everything Domenic has talked about is compatible with Lectora. We just reimagined and redesigned the Lectora desktop. We made it much more of a modular development capabilities, and it's something that's really cool to check out. So you can try that for free at elearningbrothers.com. Domenic also mentioned learning paths. If you have not heard of it already, the Rockstar Learning Platform is eLearning Brothers LMS or LXP, depending on how you would like to use it. And it allows for learning paths. There's also for video rehearsal, and a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is extremely compatible inside of both the Rockstar Learning Platform and Lectora Desktop. So give those a shot if you haven't already. You can grab free accounts or free trials at elearningbrothers.com. Thank you again, Dominic. This is, as always, very, very useful, very fun, creative new ways to use these tools and use this technology. So thank you very much. And thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you guys on our next webinar. Have a great one.